Hello, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor, Crop Life and Crop Life Iron, here again with Laura Sowinski back in our respective home offices. How you doing, Laura?
Good, thank you. I'm still recovering, trying to figure out what time zone I'm in.
Well, actually, yeah, for you, I mean, for both of us, I think it was for you, it was 1 hour forward. For me, it was 1 hour back. And I know this weekend is when we reset the clocks for daylight savings time. So, yeah, it's
Right.
probably going to take a little while to catch up our body clocks given all those changes going on. So,
Yeah, yeah. Plus, don't forget, I've been on the road, so I was Pacific, Mountain, and Central time. So,
okay. Okay. Yes,
and
you win
Eastern
the
time.
prize
Yeah.
for travel. Yes, yes.
Yep.
So hey, anyhow, we kind of gave a little bit of a preview last week in our video about some of the early things that we had seen and heard at the 2024 Commodity Classic. But here to talk about some of the things we've discovered on the back end of the show the last few days. I think it was the trivia question, the fun with numbers question, was regarding the attendance, which I seem to recall someone not quite getting right.
Yeah.
Who might that have been? Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know.
that's right. I won't rub it in. But anyhow, we did get some final attendance numbers, and it was a good event in terms of attendance for Commodity Classic this year, Laura. In Houston, they had just short of 12,000 people attend, which again, that's about 1,500 higher than the previous record, which was last year's show in Orlando. But again, like I say, 12,000 attendees from all aspects of the ag world were at the event. I know for myself, again, I reviewed some of the equipment things and seed things I saw last week. One other thing I was real curious or interested to see, a lot of the folks I visited with were the crop protection people. And there are a lot of new products that are going to be introduced into the marketplace for 2024 and even more coming in 2025. And again, if you're interested in reading about some of those, check out our online Crop Life website because we just posted the 5 takeaways from the Commodity Classic story, and I talked about some of those. But one I want to do highlight, Laura, is I was talking to folks at Bayer Crop Science, and they have a new herbicide, get the name right, Convintro, that they're looking to introduce into the U.S. market. Apparently, it's already being used in Europe. It'll offer up a new mode of action. This is a class 12 herbicide, which means it's a pigment inhibitor. Basically, I guess it works in the weed, kills the weed by kind of bleaching it or getting rid of, preventing the chlorophyll from working properly. So that basically ends up killing the weed. They're hopeful that they can get this product in market for the 2025 growing season, if not then shortly thereafter. So again, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this particular herbicide going forward. But again, I found it fascinating to hear about something that offers up a potential new mode of action for controlling some of those hard to control weeds like palmer, amaranth, and water hemp. So now I know you spent a lot of your time talking to the biologicals people. So at Commodity Classic, if you could share some of the highlights you got from those folks and what they were talking about.
Um, I will. I had the pleasure of meeting with Matt Plitt, CEO of Valent, that week prior to Commodity Classic, a few days beforehand. In fact, he schooled me on biorationals as being a more accurate term to describe, the broader segment. So at Commodity Classic, I was, really excited. And as you mentioned, just spending a lot of time with those folks. Just a couple general takeaways about the biorational slash biologicals market. Certainly, and a lot of people attested to this, that it's at this point, the barrier to entry is fairly low to no. I mean, there's a lot of folks in there. I think all of us on the Crop Life team who attended were pretty astounded at the number of exhibitors that had products in this space. So I did spend a lot of time kind of just asking, the basic questions about the market, the products themselves, where we're at, undoubtedly everyone expects to see a fair amount of consolidation in this space as the segment matures. I think the other thing as well, now that more data and proof in the pudding, if you will, about the efficacy of biologicals, best practice as to when, how, where to use them as a complement to an existing program. So as that starts again, kind of as the market matures, the products, the best practices in terms of use and application and so forth, everyone expects to see some consolidation and simultaneously greater adoption, particularly in the row crops, which we cover. So I really did learn a lot about that. And I know this is going to sound like an Academy Awards thing, but I did want to briefly just thank a little short list of folks because, unlike you're like in the weeds and you're asking all these like detailed questions. I'm always looking for the overarching, the macro things that are driving the industry. And I really want to thank a handful of the people that I spoke with because they took their time to really kind of step back and indulge me, if you will, on broader market trends. So just a quick thanks to Dean Banks, the new CEO of Indigo Ag. He sat down and spent time with me, Andrew Duff at Groundwork BioAg, Sean Berry at Certis. Again, all these folks really spent a lot of time with me. I appreciate that. Our friend Becky Worley at Nature's, Adam Kaiser at Novanesis, Galen Bear. I got the pleasure to meet and talk with him over at AgroLiquid. Rob Clayton, my friend Robert at Nutrien, and his colleagues. You were there as well. That was a great discussion. So I want to thank them as well. And then just a quick thank you for the hospitality, New Leaf Symbiotics, Brandt, Syngenta, and of course, Craig Dick and Brian Renke at Phosphollutions. Had the great pleasure of, kind of hanging out with those folks and doing some socializing and party going, as it were. So it was great show. Gosh, I learned a lot. And like you said, almost 12,000 people. It felt like a small city. And I felt like we walked around that small city for 3 days straight, but just a great show. So learn.
Yeah, and actually, I know one of our coworkers, Sal Sedicase, talking about the walking part. He sent me a note saying that his Fitbit told him that he'd taken over 35,000 steps over the course of the show. So, and again, I didn't do the mileage mark on that, but I know that is significantly more than we did when we were down at the Louisville event, the National Farm Machinery Show. So, and since you mentioned thanks, of course, for the folks that did pre-show events, BASF with their Behind Science event and FMC with their appreciation dinner, I thank them for my invites to those two events. I was able to attend both of those and got some good information from those folks as well. So anyway, I guess we're lucky this isn't the Academy Awards because the orchestra would be playing by now.
That's right.
So
call up the orchestra.
Yeah. So, hey, before we leave Commodity Classic completely, one other highlight, of course, at the general session, one of the big things that takes place at every Commodity Classic I've been to for the past several years is the Secretary of Agriculture will come and speak to the attendees. And this year was no exception. Tom Vilsack was there. And I got 2 video clips to share with our audience. In this first one, believe it or not, Tom was talking about crop inputs, in particular fertilizer. So this is what Tom had to say regarding what the government is doing to help in that area.
I'm confident that at the end of the day, folks will understand and appreciate what President Biden has understood when he said that his view, 95% of sustainable aviation fuel will be connected and produced by farmers over the next 20 years. So we obviously are focused on increasing demand, both in terms of the export market as well as the domestic market. Let me say a few words about inputs. so that you know that we are cognizant of the challenges that you face there. We've spent a considerable amount of time looking at the challenge that fertilizer provides for all producers. The President directed us to put together a program to begin the process of more domestic production of fertilizer to help increase supply, reduce our reliance on foreign sources. To date, we've funded 40 projects in 25 states to expand access to the fertilizer supply, to also create more other alternatives, to provide the technology that will allow farmers to better understand what needs to be fertilized and how much, creating more capacity and greater infrastructure.
So that's what Tom Vilsack had to say about crop inputs and fertilizer and what the government's doing. In the second clip, he was talking about something else you and I have heard a lot about lately, climate-smart agriculture. And he also mentioned briefly an update on the Farm Bill. So enjoy this clip as well.
We're not finished. There will be many, many more announcements in this area, but I want you to know that we're focused on trying to help reduce the cost and availability, increase the availability of fertilizer. The last thing I would say is we're also encouraged by the reaction that farmers and ranchers and producers have had to the Climate Smart Agriculture Initiative that was really, in a sense, launched last year at Commodity Classic when we signed the first 2 agreements. We've seen farmers step up. We see farmers understand that this is another way of reducing input costs by utilizing the resources from the Climate Smart Agriculture Initiative to essentially pay for climate smart practices, and working with the market to create new value-added opportunities so that producers actually receive a market premium for what they grow. Now, I haven't had a chance to speak much about the Farm Bill. Well, we don't have a Farm Bill yet. We don't have a budget either. Here's my pledge, though. We'll eventually get a Farm Bill, but in order to get a Farm Bill, it's going to be necessary for our policymakers to be creative. The needs are great, the resources are limited, so it's important to utilize every possible creative solution and opportunity. One of those creative solutions and opportunities is to look at ways in which the Commodity Credit Corporation can, as it has in the past, been creatively used to provide the kind of support and help for commodities across the board without the necessity of reducing the conservation resources available under the Inflation Reduction Act, without necessarily going back on the agreement that was reached in terms of the SNAP program when the debt ceiling was raised. That we can and should be utilizing this resource as it was intended when it was created during the Great Depression. It is a creative tool that will give the flexibility and opportunity for our policymakers to try to meet the significant needs that you all have identified as being important to modernizing our Farm Bill.
So for those who weren't there, that's what Tom Vilsack had to say. A couple of highlights from his 20-minute or so speech at the Commodity Classic 2024 in Houston. And as he mentioned, Laura, he didn't mention the Farm Bill and basically said, we don't have one yet. But as he pointed out in his talk, hopefully folks will be smart as they go forward when they're crafting this bill, and that ultimately one will appear and everyone in agriculture will be pleased with it, hopefully.
Awesome. Yeah. I wanted to add to, Eric, the general session just prior to having Vilsack come out. We heard from Mike Massimino, the former NASA astronaut. I have to say it was one of the best, I wouldn't call it a speech. It was a presentation and kind of like a story and a inspiring talk. That was really one of the best I've heard. I really did enjoy that. So that was, want to thank the folks at Commodity Classic for that. That was awesome. Really enjoyed it.
I agree, Laura. I know I particularly, as a man who has worked in the yard on many things and has stripped his share of screws on attachments, I particularly found his whole talk about when he was trying to repair the Hubble telescope. And he had 4 screws to remove, and 3 of them came out fine. And then the 4th one he stripped, and that it was like a handle. And basically, he just did what a lot of us guys do in the field. When the screw doesn't It's not coming out. Nothing you can do about it. You just brute force it, and you pull off the handle using your own upper body strength. So
That's right.
I appreciated that. Yes, I have been in that situation, not in space, not in a spacesuit, but I have had to remove many a handle type product before from a tractor or other yard implement, shall we say, and brute force sometimes is best. So
That's right. That was great.
that was great. So, all right, well, Miss Laura, time for your favorite segment of the show. It is time for Fun with Numbers.
All right. I trust you. It's fun with numbers. What do you got? What do you got
Well,
this week?
I'm going to wish you better luck this week than last.
All right.
So for this week, your number is a dollar amount, pretty big one, $21 billion.
Okay. With a B.
With a B, yes.
All right.
So, Laura, is $21 billion, is that A, the projected decline in net farm income for 2024 versus 2023? Is it a B, the amount of crop losses from severe weather events in 2023? Is it C, the forecast loss because of lower corn prices in 2024 versus 2023? Or is it D, the final total for the CropLife Commodity Classic staff using Lyft, Uber, and taxi services while we were in Houston this past week? The reason I bring that up is because I just turned in my expense report from that event, and I was shocked at how high my taxi Uber fares were for those 5 days I was down in Houston. So
I'm telling you, if Uber was giving away some kind of award for how much money you could spend in 3 days, I would claim that award, because I'm laughing because I was thinking the same thing when I was doing my expense reports. Like, no way. Seriously?
yeah, no, I figured based on my average per day that there were 6 of us down there. We spent close to $3,000 just getting around between events, which for 5 days we were down there for 4 or 5 days, most of us. That's a lot. But
A
anyhow,
lot.
it's obviously not the answer, but it felt like it could be.
Well, would you kindly repeat B again? What was that?
The amount of crop losses from severe weather events in 2023.
And that's U.S. only? Or is that
Correct.
globally?
No, it's U.S.
I'm going with B.
You are correct.
Really? Good.
Good job, ma'am. Yes, this was a report I ran across from our friends at the American Farm Bureau Federation. They mentioned the fact that based on the numbers, so the hurricanes, flooding, hail events, et cetera, and so on, $21 billion in crop losses occurred across the United States during 2023.
Yeah, a lot.
Now,
Incredible.
yeah, and I was going to say, any guess what state actually had the worst number when it came to crop losses in 2023? And I'll give you a hint. It's near and dear to your heart, and you're resting on its soil at the moment.
Well, Texas?
Texas, yes.
Followed by...
Believe it or not, of that 21 billion, let me get this right, 4.8, almost $4.9 billion in crop losses in the state of Texas. The next closest was Kansas, a little over 3 billion.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, no, I hate to be cheering, that I get that one right, but I mean, it's incredible. That's just a terribly high number.
And they mentioned, they mentioned severe drought and severe weather events as being, and then some hail, that being the reasons for that number in Texas. But yeah, your state of Texas did not have a good year when it came to losing crops to severe weather events, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then we're starting the year off with the fires and the Panhandle, which, I mean, it's more on the livestock side, but just, that severe drought, it's dry, it's like a tinderbox. So not a good start to the year, but let's hope for something a little less severe in terms of losses. That's wild. Crazy.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Yeah. So, folks, if you want to check out the Farm Bureau's website, you can get more information on this report, more detail. But again, I found it as an interesting number to share with our audience. So congratulations on getting it correct this week. So now you're back on a winning streak. Hopefully, we'll see how you do next week then.
Yeah, if one constitutes a winning streak, then I'll take it.
You'll,
Giving that the
we will take
losing
it.
streak.
We will take it. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us for this week's edition of Crop Life Retail Week. We hope you enjoyed our synopsis of what went on at Commodity Classic. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comments section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.